Need some help learning scales on the saxophone? In this lesson, we're going to talk about some tips that might just make scale learning easier for you. Well, g'day, Nigel here from Sax School. You know, today I want to talk about scales, major scales, minor scales. There's so many scales to learn on saxophone and it can seem really overwhelming. So here's a couple of ideas that might help you with the process of learning. I don't know if it'll make it any easier, but it might make it a bit more fun. Okay, so the first thing, I know it's really important to know the notes of your scales. Of course it is. And we've probably all got scale sheets with all the notes written out. But I think one of the best ways to really learn your scales is to get rid of the music. Drop the music and just use your ears. So once you know your scales, put your scale sheet away and just use your ears to guide your fingers. And the best way to test this is to try and work out other major scales just using your ears. So I'll show you what I mean. Let's say, for example, that you're really comfortable with the D major scale. So F sharp and C sharp, two sharps. So D major scale, nice and easy for you. Great. So how about now we try and work out the E flat major scale. Now there's lots of different methods you can use for this. You could just take every note from the D major scale up a half step. That would work. You could think about the structure of the major scale where it's tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Or you could try and think about the key, whatever your system is. Or you could just use your ear just to work out the scale that's going to sound right. And it might take you a bit of trial and error, but ultimately you want to be able to play your E flat major scale. I'm not going to tell you what the notes are, but see if you can work it out for yourself. And once you've worked the E flat major scale out, work out your E major scale, same process. Now, if you just think about that exercise with three different major scales, so we're starting with one that we really know, that we're comfortable with, then a half step up from that, building a major scale, and another half step up and building a major scale. There you've got a group of three major scales. In fact, I would suggest sticking to just those three scales for a whole week and see if you can get them up to speed. It's always a good idea to use your metronome. I've got my metronome here, and if I was going to practice this now, I'd probably set to something nice and easy like 90 beats a minute. So that way we're going up, we're going down, we're really cementing those scales in our mind, and we're using our ears to guide us, which is super important. Plus, using the metronome helps to keep you honest, and it also means that each time you practice you can speed it up a little bit, and by the end of the week I'll bet you'll have it twice as fast. Now what I would suggest you do is to take a group of three major scales like that and then do this bundle this week. Maybe next week you look at the next one. So we've done D, E flat and E. Maybe we'll do F major, F sharp and G. And the following week G sharp, A and B flat and so on. And after a few weeks you would have done all of your major scales. So then why don't you set yourself the challenge of doing all of your major scales up chromatically with your metronome over one octave. It's a really good exercise. Now if you just start at trying to do that, it's going to be quite difficult, but if you're going up in groups of three each week, before you know it, you'll have your fingers around all of those scales. Now it's really, really important to think about all the elements that we're working on when we're practicing something like this. We're not just banging through reading major scales off a sheet, we're actually using our ears, so that's very important. We're using a metronome to keep our timing happening. We're thinking all the time about our tones, so we're developing our embouchure and the quality of our sound. Of course, we're thinking about our air at the same time, and we're developing our dexterity. So there's lots of skills, so many skills that we're working on when we do a simple exercise like that. And I think it actually makes learning scales a lot more fun. Now, if you want to get some more scale tips, I definitely suggest checking out my 7 chromatic scale workouts video. I've got 7 really good ideas that'll keep you busy with chromatic scales, and they're another way to really develop your technique. So check out the link in the notes below for that lesson. I think you'll enjoy it. And just a couple of tips to finish off with then that I think are great when it comes to learning scales. Practicing them chromatically, like I'm suggesting in this lesson, is a great way to do it, but also looking at your scales in families, in key families. So a major scale and its relative minor is a great way to practice. And another way that's great to practice your scales is to look at the scales that are related to the piece of music that you're working on. So if you're playing a piece of music and it's in the key of A major, then spend some time focusing on the A major scale and the F sharp minor scale, the scales that are all related to the key of that piece. Because the scales you're learning there are patterns that you're going to see in your piece of music, and everything ties together, and it's a great way to systematically work through your scales. So I really hope you found that helpful. Please leave me a comment below, because your comments really help me to make better videos. And if it's your first time on my channel, then please do subscribe, because I'm making new videos all the time, and I'm really trying to make videos that are going to help you learn saxophone faster and hopefully have a whole bunch of fun doing it as well. So keep practicing hard. I'll see you next time.